Hi, everybody. Welcome back inside our Liberty Flames podcast presented by Century Exteriors. My name is Alan York, and we are going to go out to Las Cruces, New Mexico to catch up with Joe Carmany, Director of Softball Communications for Liberty Athletics, and Jamie Hall, who's handling the radio play-by-play for the Liberty Flames Sports Network from Van Wagner. Fellas, appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day. It's been a long road trip. You guys have been out and about. We're in LSU, Baton Rouge, Louisiana last weekend, now all the way to Las Cruces, New Mexico. We'll start with you, Jamie. Just give us the vibe of what's going on right now as you guys prepare for the Conference USA softball tournament.
Well, they had a little bit of downtime, and even today is a little bit of downtime. So I think everybody's kind of itching to get back out on the field. I think after that win at LSU on Sunday, they would have probably played a doubleheader if somebody would have let them. Certainly would have played the next day, but they had a good practice yesterday. They're going back at it probably as we speak right now, off site, getting some workouts in, and they're chomping at the bit to get back out there tomorrow. They just don't know their opponent yet, and so you can't really do any scout. But everybody knows everybody at this point in conference play. You've seen all the pitching. You've seen what you're going to expect from the other team's hitters. So there's no surprises pretty much, unless somebody's popped back from an injury, halfway through the season. Other than that, there's no secrets.
As we tape this, it's 1:30 Eastern p.m., 11:30 a.m. out in Las Cruces, May the 8th. Joe, I want to toss you the next question. This team has been challenged all year long. 19-5, number one seed in the Conference USA conference tournament coming up. Again, that 19-5 record is conference record. But LSU, it's always good to win the last time you played. But in particular with this series with LSU, going into a conference tournament, they lost the first two. They were tight games, but they won 3-1 on Sunday. Why was that win so important springboarding into the conference tournament, you think, for this particular team?
I feel like obviously it had been a few days since they had won. Lost the last game to UTEP, lost to Virginia Tech, so it was kind of, going the wrong way, so to speak. But again, tight games, like you said, all week. They finally got a couple timely hits there. Pitching was outstanding. Obviously, Escobar had a great outing, but from a confidence perspective, yeah, 1-4 in the last 5, but that one was huge.
I heard Jamie on the post game with Rachel Roop and Dot Richardson, and all I heard was about this post game spread in the parking lot. Dot was talking about, hey, all the purple and gold's going to be heading to their cars, but there's going to be a contingent of navy and red in the parking lot at the LSU softball park. I know, Jamie, you were packing up your gear and didn't see much of it. Dot was excited. Rachel was excited. Take us into whichever one wants to answer what it was, who provided it, and what kind of spread was it after that game on Sunday?
So that was Tyler Oob's family. She's from Destrehan, Louisiana, so not too far from there. But yeah, they had a big spread of all the pastelaya, and we weren't personally there because we had things to wrap up. But there were a lot of food that they all enjoyed. Gumbo.
Rachel estimated 50,000 calories. I'm thinking it was closer to 100,000 calories that got put down that evening.
Speaking of food, a couple of you guys posted some of your meals in Baton Rouge. I think it was more so you, Jamie, than Joe. But take me through kind of the food you experienced in Baton Rouge. So you were out there since Thursday, and then obviously flew out on Monday to Las Cruces. So you'd been in Baton Rouge a while to get some of the local fare. How was that?
There's a place called the Chimes that was probably my favorite. That had the catfish and fried shrimp, and there was tons of stuff. I think Joe had some chicken, but not a seafood guy. But then the day before, we were at the original Walk-Ons restaurant near campus and had a po' boy sandwich, and then there's a place called Atomic Burger. And if you hear Atomic Burger, you think, oh, that sounds like something from The Simpsons or some movie or something like that. So I looked it up, thinking, well, maybe this is a chain that just kind of died out, but it's not. It was a local restaurant to the north of New Orleans, and they've opened up now a branch in Baton Rouge, and they're going to open up one, I think, in between the two cities. And it was really good. And so if you're ever in Baton Rouge or Red Stick, I didn't use Red Stick nearly enough. I think everybody else that's around that part of the country calls it Red Stick. But if you're ever down there, and you want a good burger, I think that's the way to go.
We're talking Red Stick, not bread stick, correct?
Right. Correct. Yeah. I'm going to assume, and my French isn't good, but I'm going to assume that baton is stick and rouge is red.
There you go.
Flip them around.
You had not one but two sandwiches, Jamie, at Atomic Burger?
Those are sliders, so they weren't as big as maybe it looked. So yeah,
okay.
you can get like a 2 slider deal, and one was, I think, chicken, and one was just a burger. But that's more my style. You go to some of these places and they put 2 or 3 gigantic patties, and you can't taste the toppings. I like to be able to taste the toppings and the sauces and stuff. So a slider that size, perfect for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is about broadcasters and road trips, but it always centers around food. Now, the game is the most important thing we're doing, going out to cover, but we can't not get around the food. I'm not sure why that is. I'm not going to complain about it, but it's just part of the deal, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of trips, Alan, that you and I've taken that if you ask us what the final score of the game is, we'd have to think for a few minutes. But if you ask us, where did you go to eat? It's going to go, oh, yeah. We can rattle that off. We went to the Varsity. We went to,
yeah.
All the iconic restaurants that you go to. And sometimes the scores get shuffled back to the back of the brain a little bit.
All right, let's get back to softball. Joined by Jamie Hall, doing the radio play-by-play for our Liberty Flames Sports Network from Van Wagner, Liberty out in Las Cruces, New Mexico, for the Conference USA softball tournament. Joe Carmany, the head of PR for Liberty softball. I like to call it PR, which is what it is, but communications director of the softball team for Liberty Athletics. All right, Joe, did I call you Paul a minute ago?
I don't think so, but
I hope not.
If he did, it happens all the time. So
your brother Paul does a great job as well for us.
He's actually coming out here to El Paso with track today.
Wow, how about that? So you flew in El Paso and then you drove to Las Cruces. You drove to Las Cruces. It's about an hour drive. This team, number 1 seed, first since 2015 for a first-year Conference USA team, nod to the Hilltoppers at Western Kentucky, to be the number 1 seed in their first year in the league. I had that date right, 2015?
Correct, yep.
Awesome.
Yep. Right.
Shout out to Flames Minute I did for Nick Pierce a couple of days ago. I'd use that key stat there. Again, hard to predict what's going to happen. Saturday's the championship. Where does this team stack up statistic-wise with others? We'll use the ASUN history for Liberty softball. Where does this team stack up as a number 1 seed?
As far what exactly?
As far as you've seen this team every game this year, give or take a couple of road trips. But I mean, statistically, what's the strengths? Where does this team stack up versus those other ASUN champions we've seen the last 3 or 4 years?
Well, I feel like the power bats are still there. You got a couple with Rachel Roop and Megan Fortner, both hitting over 10 home runs. Roop really setting the tone with a high batting average and all that. The pitching's been more by committee this year than the past couple. So you've seen a few different players step up in that regard. But with all that said, the team leads the conference in ERA and conference-only games, had 6 shutouts in conference play. So had a few series where the other team struggled to score even 1 run. Jacksonville State didn't score against us. Louisiana Tech scored 1 against us total in those 3-game series. So there have been some very good pitching performances, which was kind of a question mark coming into the season with a lot of turnover at that position. Um, Traditionally, the last several years, Conference USA wise, Conference USA, the number 1 seed, has not made the final since 2018 and has not won the final since 2016. So last year, the 6th seed, Middle Tennessee, won. They made some noise in the Tuscaloosa regional, got to the regional final there, lost the if necessary game to Alabama, but they're not here. So that's how much parity there is in this conference. The defending champion is not here at the tournament because only 6 qualify. So lot of information in a small segment there.
That's okay. We're here for the long haul, talking with Jamie Hall, Joe Carmany out with Liberty Softball. So 6 qualify for the tournament. Liberty keeps winning. They'll play Thursday, we know, at noon Mountain Time, 2:00 Eastern, against the winner of a game today, New Mexico State or Jacksonville State. And then you keep winning, you go all the way to Saturday, and it's winner take all, regardless of the double elimination. Correct, Joe?
Correct. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. For CBS Sports Network.
There you go. Shout out to the network partner, TV network partner of Conference USA. And for you, Jamie, let's go back and look at the numbers with the Facebook live stream on the softball page, averaging about 1,000 fans, the LSU series, and it kept growing up until Sunday. What have you enjoyed about that part? And then talking to Dot post game on the video stream, it seems like it's becoming quite popular with softball fans.
Yeah, the post games are the best. I mean, we've done 1,000 games in our lives, and so you kind of, it's exciting to be in new places. Doing a game here is going to be new. Doing games at LSU for me, as far as softball was concerned, was new. So that's cool. Seeing new cities, seeing new stadiums, getting the kind of the vibe of places is cool. But when Dot comes in a room, and then of course Rachel Roop came on with us on Sunday, and she was great. Those interactions are my favorite part of it, and just when Dot, it doesn't matter win, lose, or draw. When Dot comes in, there's going to be an energy level that you've got to bring yourself up to match her energy, win or lose, but especially in a win. In a win, she floats into the room, and it's really cool. But and having said that, just take a little bit of a sidebar here. How in the world, and I hate to complain about things, but how in the world is Dot and that staff not coaches of the year in this conference with what they lost after last year? You lose an all-world pitcher, an all-world catcher, you lose a stud infielder, and then there's one other infielder that was injured that didn't play this year. So you lose 4 of your starters, and not just 4 of your starters, but 4 of the players that were going to probably be right there in all conference player of the year contention this season. And you go into a new conference that's a tougher conference, a higher RPI conference. You play just a murderer's row schedule in the preseason or pre-conference, and the 3rd place team gets coach of the year. I don't understand that, but we saw that in basketball too on the women's side. And the Middle Tennessee folks are going to be they're in the choir behind me right now saying amen. But I think everybody knows which coaching staff had the best year in Conference USA. But it's just a shame they didn't get the award.
You're right, and I think it's okay for us to have a beef with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with offering an opinion. We're not out bashing anything. We're just offering an opinion that, hey, I think it should have gone the other way. Of course, we are pro-liberty, and typically you do get maybe more than 6 all-conference players, or even one selected as a superlative, newcomer of the year, freshman, defensive player, pitcher of the year, et cetera. And Liberty gets 6. And question to you, Joe, nothing, too, digging, if you will, but the 6 that did get all-conference, Joe, did you think they were selected where they should have been, like, whether it be first team, second team, all freshmen, et cetera, Was there any argument for, well, maybe one could have gone on another team, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think if you look at the if you look at the voting process, it actually opened on Thursday of last week. So it's possible that some people voted before they saw Elena Escobar do what she did on the weekend. So that's a case in point where obviously that probably could have, would have, should have shifted her up onto that first team consideration.
Yeah.
So you know, you might quibble about that, but on the other side, Rachel Roop's the only batter on the team with a batting average over 300. So how many are going to do enough on the other intangibles to get onto the first team?
Yep,
maybe Megan Fortner with her 11 homers and almost 30 RBIs and her really strong defense at first base. Maybe you can make a case there for first team, but across the board offensively, our team batting averages in the 250s. So just usually you see most of your first teamers batting in the 300s unless they have 15 home runs, 40 RBIs. So from a first and second team standpoint, you might have had a little shifting there, but probably only Escobar, I would say. And then, you know, anybody else that might have been able to make all conference. Maybe you look at KK Madry had a really good conference season, about a 328 in conference, 9 stolen bases. Obviously, the 2 SportsCenter top 10 plays. She was not on either first team or second team. So I would probably say from a, like what you call snub perspective, maybe that would be the 7th. So maybe a little shifting here and there, but overall, I think the number was approximately, it was still the most of any team in the conference.
Yeah.
But the first team was not the most of anybody in the conference. So
right.
But from an individual perspective, statistically, it was about where I would expect it.
Okay, wrapping things up with Joe Carmany, head of Liberty Softball Communications, and Jamie Hall, who's got the radio call, the Conference USA Baseball. I knew it was going to get in there sometime. Softball championship out in Las Cruces. There on location. Jamie, you mentioned Rachel Root post-game Sunday about the low humidity. Now, you and I were there for basketball back January, February. What's the weather been like since you've been out there the last couple of days?
Well, it's if you go from LSU where it was 83, feels like 89, and you come here and it's 82, feels like 78. So I like this, and I'll take this any day of the week. It doesn't even feel bad. I went to the practice yesterday and didn't even realize I didn't have an intention of wearing my jacket as I was walking around, but I had it on, and about halfway through, I realized I really wasn't that hot. Now the sun obviously is, when you're out in it, there's not a lot of shade, then that'll get to you. You got to put the sunscreen on. But as far as, I think the elevation is probably more of an issue than the climate out here. Just that if you're not used to 3,000 plus feet of elevation, it might take a little while for your lungs to adjust and for you to kind of get into it. And then, with the low humidity, you take a shower and your hair's, no offense, Alan, but your hair's dry before you get your shirt on. Your hair's already dry. So there's some things, you do have to kind of hydrate. You got to stay hydrated and just adjust to that elevation, because you certainly could be, we're just walking around maybe with a little bit of gear to carry up some steps, and I'm sucking wind. So I know the players, if they're out there running sprints, that they're probably adjusting a little bit, but it's not too bad.
I know it might have been limited last couple of years in the ASUN with teams sending audio broadcasts to the ASUN tournament. How about Conference USA? Are there any other teams there that they're going to be doing audio broadcasts?
Just one, Louisiana Tech.
Okay.
So we don't want to play Louisiana Tech. because then we're not going to have a lot of room.
I was going to say, what are the digs like? Where they send the audio broadcasters?
Well, we haven't seen it yet because it wasn't set up. But it sounds like a table and a tent.
Yeah, if you remember 2016 when you were at Winthrop,
I do. Yeah,
that'll probably be a similar type where they have the tables and the pop-up tent over you. So that's likely approximately what we're going to have.
Hey, have Mike, have a seat. We'll broadcast anywhere, but to have a cover over you, I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah. And again, it's not nearly as bad as North Florida and Stetson, because there we had a covering over us. We had a tent over us at North Florida, but it was 92 and humid. Here it's going to be 82 and no humidity. So
right.
I'm not complaining. It'll feel great to me.
Any meals you've had yet? We haven't talked about the Las Cruces food, but the Tex-Mex.
There is a place that makes some pies down here. What was it called? Buttersmith's?
Yeah, Buttermill.
No, Smith's.
Buttersmith's.
Yeah, Buttersmith's, I think. Buttersmith's Kitchen and Pies.
Okay.
Unbelievable. I think I put some. I know maybe I haven't put a photo out on that yet, but the food was good. But you're just going. You go, okay, let me get something good to eat, but save room for the pie because it's on another level. Joe got a French silk pie, and you know how sometimes they have like an ornate little garnish of chocolate swirl on the top.
Yeah,
it's about the size of a candy bar. Just the garnish of chocolate was about half of a Hershey bar.
Those are called curls.
Okay, there you go. That's what it was. It was a big curl.
Oh,
it was
jealous. All right, fellas, appreciate the time. I know you're up against getting to that first game just to go check it out and kind of scout New Mexico State or Jack State. Again, Liberty, #1 seed, Conference USA softball tournament. Their run begins tomorrow, which will be Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 12 o'clock Mountain, for those of you that are out there in Las Cruces. Boys, appreciate it. Have a good rest of the day, okay?
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Alan.